Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this fifth open house session on OKEN. Today, we'll be covering a topic called Credit Bureau Inquiry for Cash Flow-Based SACHE Loans. I've posted a Google form link in the chat for all the attendees to post their questions there. We'll be taking up questions at the end of the presentation, and we'll be going through them one by one. So to kick it off, we'll start off with an introduction about iSpirit and dive into the topic. But prior to that, I would like to introduce the panel to present here today to all of you. I'm Ankit. I'm a volunteer with iSpirit. I have been contributing towards our credit democratization efforts with OKEN, which is Open Credit Enablement Network. And it's a pleasure to be here with you all today. Nipun, would you please like to introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nipun Kohli. As like Ankit, I am also a volunteer with iSpirit, working for almost 15 months with iSpirit on this cash flow credit enablement, right, using the OKEN infrastructure.
Thanks for joining, Nipun. Manisha?
Sure, Ankit. Good evening, everybody. I'm Manisha Sarkar from TransUnion within TransUnion India. And we have been working very closely with iSpirit from an OKEN ecosystem perspective. And it's a pleasure to have joined this open session as one of the panelists.
Great to have you here, Manisha. And Shaunak?
Hello, everyone. My name is Shaunak. I lead market planning for cash flow-based lending at TransUnion Civil. We are very excited about the opportunities this throws up for expanding small ticket lending in India, both on the small business and retail consumer sides. Thanks, iSpirit team, for having us for the session today.
Great. So let's kick off with a very brief recap on OKEN, what's been happening in the ecosystem, and about iSpirit. And in Indian Software Product Industry Roundtable, iSpirit is a non-profit tech think and do tank. And the philosophy with which we operate is that in order to solve some of the largest societal scale problems, which are the hardest problems to solve in the country, such as financial inclusion, health, and so on, it takes a combinatorial approach to solve them, where you see a jugalbandi of sorts between public infrastructure and private innovation to come together and solve for these problems. And some of these problems have long time horizons to solve them. And something like financial inclusion and health takes that longer time. But the underlying principle over here is that with public infrastructure being made available to the entrepreneurs, that can be utilized at scale using the merits of its standardizations to solve some of these hardest problems. And iSpirit does it as a body of part-time and full-time volunteers who take out time to volunteer towards these causes. We are a mix of volunteers coming from varied backgrounds, from technical backgrounds to policy, to business, legal, and so on. And over these the past few months, we have been working on something called OKEN, and we did few sessions in the months of July and August to share with you all what we intend to do with OKEN and what its objective is in terms of our efforts for credit democratization. And so a quick recap around that is that OKEN is an open protocol for credit, just like UPI is for payments and account aggregator APIs are for data. What it does is just one simple thing. It standardizes the loan application format and the loan life cycle across all the lenders and all the marketplaces or platforms in the country, so that all of them use one common language to submit a loan application on behalf of a customer of a marketplace to the multiple lenders in the country. And as you can see, there are different use cases like Kirana store use cases, where whether they come through an FMCG platform or marketplace, or whether they come through a B2B e-commerce platform, or even through payment aggregators, where there are multiple touch points now through which a loan application of a prospective borrower can be originated. And it happens in a manner where the cost of acquisition for the lenders is substantially low. And this is something that has been in motion for some time. We spoke about Sahay as the first reference implementation on the lines of Bheem, which was for UPI being worked upon. And ever since the work has been on this, We have seen great response from the ecosystem with these lenders such as SBI Access, HDFC, IDFC First, ICICI, Bajaj Finserv, and Ugro as two NBFCs have also joined in. And they've done the integration and are working towards enabling flow of capital through Oken. On the other hand, we have many different use cases across supply chain, financing to kirana stores to agri, healthcare and education and so on that are emerging for Oken as well. So today we wanted to take a step further and discuss some of the other problems that we solved and worked upon along the way in this Oken journey. And for this, the new inquiry approach, which will be our topic of discussion today, I'll invite Nipun to take over and share with us.
Thank you, Ankit. Thank you for setting the stage. So I think, like Ankit mentioned, Oken enables cash flow credit at scale and the sachet loans, right, which are mostly transaction led. And when we were trying to work on this segment, one of the things which we come across was how does the credit bureaus, right, which is the very essential part of specific intention to pay, how does that works in, right? And most importantly, when there's going to be, a lot of embedded finance which will happen, and there's going to be a lot of cash flow credit use cases which emerge, both in the MSME sector as well as on the consumer finance sector. How does the credit bureau checks will actually works in those cases? So that was the problem statement we worked on, and we worked very deeply with TransUnion on. And I think our objective today is to present what we have been working on and how we looked at that problem and what it brings to the ecosystem, right? And how it can get evolved future in the time to come. So I think there are two more important actors, right? Where credit bureaus or CIC, credit information report, plays a very vital role, right? And the first one is the borrower, right? When borrower is going to, and I think one of the biggest concern for the borrower is how my credit score is going to get impacted if I'm going to take many small transaction loans, right? Instead of taking a lumpy loan, right, I'm going to take a more transaction oriented loan or a cash flow driven loan. And how is my credit score is going to get impacted, right? And which is going to be the most important prevalent factor for me to get more credit, right? Mostly even for an OPEX investment or CAPEX investment or OPEX. So how is that score is going to impact it? So that's a very important question from a borrower's perspective. The second thing is, if I'm going to apply, what Oken enables, right? For any borrower to go and apply into multiple of marketplaces or multiple LSPs, right? And eventually go to, multiple lenders in one go. So then the other important point is how is going to be those inquiries are going to appear on my credit report. If there are going to be so many inquiries appearing on my credit report, will that impact me anything adversely? So that's a very important perspective from a borrower. And when I'm going to take this small transaction loan, which are going to be for shorter duration or a sachet loans, how are they going to appear on my credit report? And, how do I, understand those reports, and how does my potential lender in the future will understand this? So that's more from a borrower's perspective, right? Important questions, right? Which comes into the borrower's, from the borrower's perspective, right? Similarly, on the lender's perspective, right? And lender also needs to understand how to make those inquiries, right? Because potentially for the same lender who is going to come through this LSP, the lender may actually offer him multiple kinds of other loans in the future as well. How does he then understand what kind of inquiries he will make, right? So that's more important question from a lender's perspective. And similarly, how does it report? This is a new form of lending. Is it going to have the standard of this, earlier form of lending? Is going to report the same way how it used to report earlier, right? Or is it going to be, or the reporting part will change, and how is going to be by BREs going to get evolved with this new, new form of lending, which will take place. So these are the two important asks from these two main actors, prospective borrowers and the lenders. Thanks, Ankit. So as I mentioned, right? So the way what does Oken enables? Oken enables one borrower to make multiple loan applications to multiple lenders in one go, and the whole life cycle of the loan management is actually is digitized and standardized, right? So look at a borrower, which could be, and most of the okay, current work we have been doing with MSME, but the same can be replicated in the time to come by in the consumer's case as well, right? And I've been a borrower, apply on a loan service provider, and loan service provider, based on my consent, makes an application to multiple lenders, right? And it could be host of NBFCs or banks, or public sector, private sector banks. And I think like how does, and I think one of the important aspect which we have covered in a previous session is account aggregator. Like account aggregator democratize data, right? How does my data, transaction and financial data, moves to multiple lender? And what does account aggregator do is it takes my consent, pull up my data from my financial information provider, and provides to multiple financial information users, right, which are my potential lenders. Same way, I think here one has to look at, if I'm going to make an application, right, through a loan service provider, and the loan service provider through this own OCEN enable APIs will make that application to multiple lenders. How are those inquiries going to be made? Are these going to be inquiries simultaneously made? And if there are, right, and there are, let's imagine 10 to 20 lenders on an LSP, then will it be 20 inquiries made on a single application? And this problem multiplies, because now I could apply to not one, but maybe multiple loan service provider going forward, and it actually multiplies. So basically, that is one of the important problem, right, which came from a borrower's perspective. And actually that's a problem from a lender perspective also, because if those inquiries are going to appear on my CIR, then the lenders would actually currently associate it to be a high risky borrower, because it's going to be looking like more like a credit hungry borrower. There is going to be and that could actually result in not only this but other kinds of credit, right, appearing. So that's the question from a borrower's perspective, and it can lead into high rejections as well. And that is the that's the problem statement we try to overcome and work with TransUnion. And I think I'll invite Manisha to maybe cover up the solution what we have worked on. It's in the beta stage.
Thank you, Nipun, and thanks, Ankit, for setting the context. Good evening, everybody, once again. So as Nipun articulated the problem statements that came up while we were working with the lenders, onboarding them onto this OCEN framework, that if these are multiple small sachet loans that are going to get financed, how do we then take care of the number of inquiries that will hit on the borrower CIR, and the eventual impact of these numerous quantum of inquiries, as well as the velocity at which these inquiries will be made? To tackle this problem statement, we came up with a new approach wherein, as a lender, when a particular invoice is being put up by on the LSP by the borrower, and that being a marketplace, there will be multiple lenders who would want to evaluate the particular borrower and then make their offers, and hence there will be multiple inquiries happening on one single invoice at the same time for that particular borrower. So the new inquiry approach that we have come up with over here is the soft inquiry concept, which will happen at the stage of determining the offer in itself. So even before a loan offer is being made available to the borrower who has put up the invoices, the inquiry that the lenders will do to the bureau would be considered as a soft inquiry, so that it does not appear in the credit reports of the borrowers. It is not considered in the calculation of the score and thereby adversely impacting it. Keep in mind that inquiry as a variable, though it has a lesser weightage in the overall calculations, but if the quantum of inquiries and the velocity of the inquiries within a very limited time period is a lot more, it will definitely bring down the score. So not wanting the borrower to get penalized for this entire workflow, what we found out was that if we can introduce a new inquiry purpose code specifically for seller financing, and then take care of it from a perspective of returning the data variables back to the lender so that they can run their rules and come up with an offer to be given to the borrower, but not impacting the borrower at an offer introduction stage by itself. So that is the reason why there are two specific inquiry purpose codes that we have introduced over here. On the commercial side, whenever an inquiry request is being sent, there is a specific field called as inquiry purpose. And in that inquiry purpose, one has to enter the text as seller financing soft. So the system will read this inquiry purpose, will understand that this is for which kind of nature of a loan that an inquiry is happening. It is a soft because it's at a pre-offer stage and hence not to be included in the report as well as in the score calculation. Similarly, on the consumer side, there is a specific inquiry purpose code that has been assigned, and that code is 22. So the moment inquiry purpose code in the inquiry string comes as 22, the bureau will recognize it for what is the use case, how it has to be treated in the overall calculations of the report generation as well as the score generation, and accordingly the response will be sent out. So while the response will contain all the data variables or credit data variables that are required to make an informed decision to generate the offer, the only key criteria that we are solving over here, or the key problem statements that are posed to us we are solving, is that it does not impact the score of the consumers. It does not leave behind multiple inquiry stamps in the CIR. So that was the whole purpose of introducing these soft inquiry purpose codes on the consumer and the commercial. As far as the inquiry string is concerned, we are not making any kind of change in the inquiry string, so that there is no new development that the lenders would have to make to again connect to the bureau. All of these lenders are already connected to the bureau. The BAU inquiries do happen with us. So not disrupting that flow or not making them do additional development changes at their end, the inquiry string continues to remain the same. The standard mandatory fields of name, DOB, gender, one of the IDs. If no ID is available, then at least a telephone number on the consumer side. And on the commercial side, the name, PAN, and the address. These are the mandatory ones. So we continue to have this. So the inquiry string doesn't change. What changes is the value that gets passed in the inquiry purpose field. So if you pass seller financing soft for commercial and 22 for consumer, then accordingly the system treats these values and returns the information that the lender would want to evaluate to generate the offer. So that is the first stage of the entire inquiry approach or the inquiry flow when it comes to the OKane Sahay journey. Once the soft inquiry request comes to the bureau, we return the response. The lenders evaluate the responses, run their rules and the BRMs or underwriting models that they may have, and then they put up the offers on the LSP. The borrower has the flexibility to select the offer that it feels is the best offer for it. Once the offer is selected, so on Ankit's slide, we saw some of the names of the lenders. So say one of the lenders, all the lenders have put up the offers, but the borrower is interested in accepting lender A's offer. The moment there is a lender A's offer being accepted, that particular lender alone sends a hard inquiry back to the bureau, because that is the inquiry stamp that we would want to document in the CIR of the borrower, and also keep it from a record perspective. Going forward, if there are other inquiries that are hard inquiry in nature, only those will be considered in the score calculation. So the second leg of the entire workflow would be to send out a hard inquiry only by the lender whose offer is getting accepted, because that is the lender who is finally going to do the disbursement. And for that purpose, you have seller financing as an inquiry purpose or 21 as an inquiry purpose code. So that is how the entire flow will work. So the soft inquiries do not appear in the CIR. They do not impact the score or the rank of the borrower. Only the hard inquiries appear. So from that perspective, the borrower is not adversely penalized for this. Yes, there is a question on the chat window where we see that, hope you're differentiating if the lender is coming through an OKane or not OKane. Yes, we do have those kind of flags already inbuilt into our systems. So just to summarize the discussions, essentially, when it comes from an inquiry perspective, it's a clear bifurcation of a soft and a hard, and what are the implications of a soft and a hard inquiry. But once the loan has been offer has been accepted and the loan has been disbursed into the account of the borrower, the lenders will also have to do the reporting of the loan. So as is the practice now, at least once a month, the lenders do the credit data reporting to the CICs. Even for these invoice financing or seller financing, there are specific loan type codes which have been added in the catalog. And for consumer, the loan type is seller financing with the code of 21. For commercial, the code is 9020, again, the text being seller financing. So these will be the loan types that will get reported. by the lenders to the bureau. So going forward, if there are any kind of analytics that we would want to know, that how many loans have been booked via this journey, how many loans have been booked as seller financing, we can do all these kind of analytics further to strengthen this entire process. So that is the reporting structure that the lenders would have to follow diligently. One point that we would want to bring out over here is the lenders should also keep in mind that while these are all sachet loans, every loan type has to be, rather every loan that is being availed has to be reported. But just keep in mind that it is the every component of the loan that needs to be reported. There cannot be a double reporting of the loans. So if somebody has taken a lakh of rupee and these are getting disbursed in tranches, then reporting the main limit as well as the tranches shows the borrower as an over leveraged borrower. And this definitely has an impact on the entire score and a rank of the borrower. So that is one thing that the lenders will have to be a little cognizant about. So just avoid reporting the duplicity of the loans that we are getting. However, the question that Nipun had put as a problem statement, which a borrower may have, that will all the loans appear on my credit report? Yes. So every loan that the borrower has availed of, and if the lenders are reporting all of these loans, these will appear in the CIR. But there will not be any duplicity of the loans, because that is where the dedupe checks and everything will happen. But all the loans that the borrower is availing, because the borrower has the flexibility to accept offer of lender A for invoice 1, offer of lender B for invoice 2, then in that case, both these invoices that are being financed will appear in the CIR of the borrower. So as a summary, just to recap, that we did have the problem statements in our earlier slides, but each of these problem statements we have worked for a few months with our Spirit team and we have come up with the solutions. So will my credit score get impacted from a borrower perspective? No, if the soft inquiries do not impact the score. It is only the hard inquiry, which the lender whose offer is accepted will pass on to the CIC. Only that inquiry will be considered in the score calculation, and only that inquiry will appear in the CIR. In terms of what loans will appear in the credit report, any loan, all the seller financing loan, and hence the specific loan purpose code of seller financing that we have introduced, those loans that are getting reported as a part of this journey will appear in the CIR of the borrower. Lender, how does the lender ensure that the correct inquiry stamps are getting registered? Again, make use of the soft and the hard inquiry. Pre-offer stage, it's soft. Once the offer is accepted, it's the hard inquiry. And there has to be a correct reporting of the loan type using the seller financing loan type codes that we have.
Okay, so one of the questions, Nipun, that has come up is what does it mean for the tech vendors who build the business rule engines and the loan management systems for the lenders? What implication would it have?
So, I think that's a very important question, and Manisha did touch upon that, right? And most importantly, when the tech vendors have to run these BREs, right? This kind of loans, like what Manisha mentioned, and all these loans will be reported as a trade lines, right? And these are going to be a sachet loans, and the tech vendor has to be cognizant about the account type, what they are reported against, right? Which is going to be a seller inquiry, seller financing. And then they have to, also, in the cases, what Manisha mentioned, that, one of the things which lender have to understand is that they don't need to be, they have to be reporting the transactions only, and not in case of a limit which they set it up, or, so that it doesn't look, the borrower does not seems to be an over leverage. So those are checks points which the tech vendor has to do in the BREs, right? While working with the lenders, and do the evaluation basis that, yeah.
Sure, thanks, Nipun. Manisha, a question that has come up is that for an individual loan, other than the seller financing, will this approach still be applicable there as well?
Yes, so the approach can be extended to multiple use cases. Right now, the primary use case that we had was to take care of the seller financing. As a seller, if somebody comes up, puts up the invoice, how do we cater to that requirement? That was the immediate ask, and hence we came up with seller financing as a specific purpose code from an inquiry. But a soft inquiry and a hard inquiry context and the approach can be extended to any kind of use cases. Once we have defined the use cases, we can define specific purpose codes for those kind of loans as well and take it ahead from there. So this can definitely be extended to any kind of use cases that we have.
Sure, sure. Got it. And Shaunak, one other question that has come up is that at what intervals should the seller financing loans be reported?
So data reporting can be as frequent as manageable by lenders. Of course, the more frequent it is, the better. Now, as a CIC, we can ingest daily reported data as well. Currently, majority of the lenders do monthly data submissions, which is a minimum RBI requirement, but some are already doing weekly and daily reporting. So to start with, the lenders can continue to do data submission of seller financing loans at the existing frequency, where they already do regular credit data submission, and eventually we'll have to progress towards more frequent reporting.
Understood. Understood. Another question that you can probably take up is, how will the underwriting be enabled for unbanked or the underserved population?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I saw a few of these related questions in that sheet, in the question sheet. So that's actually a key problem statement cash flow based lending aims to solve for, which is by enabling lenders to look at multiple alternate data sources. And once the account aggregator ecosystem goes live, access to bank statements, GST filing information, some other information sources with the consumer's consent will get a whole lot easier. So iSpirit and ecosystem partners like ourselves, we are working closely with lenders to help them integrate credit with alternate or non-credit data to kind of further that financial inclusion clause.
Understood. Sure. Okay. Manisha, one of the other questions that has come up is that will the lenders be charged for the soft as well as the hard CIR?
So yes, there will be some commercials involved in terms of the inquiries that hit the bureau. So there will be some kind of a commercials involved. Yes, definitely. We can work with the specific lenders in terms of the volumes and the transactions and the contracting. So that is a different discussion, but there will be some commercials involved when it comes to soft and hard. Yes.
Okay. Nipun, are you there?
Yes, I'm good.
Okay. So Nipun, I think this, again, since you mentioned account aggregator and that piece has come up, so I think it's a very important query to address. One of the questions that has come up is that will the prospective lenders get access to GST track record of the borrower?
Yes, I think there is, like today we are covering the credit bureaus and CICs, right? I think in the past we have covered the GSTN part, right? Which is, and what's happening in the whole ecosystem, GSTN is getting implemented as an FIP, financial information providers, on the account aggregator framework. So like, like banking data, GSTN data would, based on the consent of the borrower, would also be made available, right, to the prospective lenders, right, or the group of lenders, or through the account aggregator framework. And that will become one of the very important key data point, right, for looking at the business transaction. And most importantly, like from 1st April, there's going to be 50 crore and plus companies which will go into e-invoicing. The usage of GST is, gradually going more real time, and that's going to make this use case more important, right?
And okay, let me see what other questions are there.
Ankit, can I take up a question that I read in the chat window?
Please do.
Yeah.
Please do.
So there's one question that has been asked by a participant, that how does one avoid misuse by LSPs to always choose soft inquiry? Also, if the LSP doesn't make hard inquiry at all, even after disbursements, what's the counter check? That's a brilliant question. And this is something that we had deliberated when we came up with the approach of soft and hard. while the lenders are sending us these inquiry strings as a soft inquiry purpose, and after the loan has been accepted, the hard inquiry purpose, assuming that the lenders do not send the hard inquiry purpose code to us. But what happens is, once the loan is disbursed, because there is an RBI mandate for all the lending institutions to report credit data to the bureau, we will come to know this as a loan type. This is the borrower, this is the loan type, this is the sanction date, so on and so forth. And then we do a tie-up, or we have a regular MIS mechanism to tie it back when we do a different kind of analytics, that whether after the inquiry the loan was disbursed, what was the decision taking, or loan not disbursed, so is there any reject inferencing we can draw out of it. So we do all kind of these MISs. So from that perspective, we will be able to track it down, whether without a hard inquiry a loan has been sent and it's only at a soft inquiry stage that the lender has stopped. So there will be counter checks and there will be MISs, which we will also be sharing with respective lenders. And to add one point over here, though this is more relevant to a public sector bank, there is a government initiative of an ease index, where pulling up a CIR before an actual loan disbursement has taken place or not is one of the criteria that goes in that index ranking. So the lenders are also cognizant of this fact. So we will have these mechanisms put in place.
I think I'm looking at a bunch of questions, and I think broadly we have covered the majority of them. And I'll see if some other questions come up, then which are there. Then we can come back to them. Otherwise, I think we've covered a bunch of them. But one other question that has just come up is that just a clarification that the reporting over here will be done in the commercial bureau and not the consumer bureau, right?
So the reporting of the loan type will depend upon where the loan is getting booked. If it is an individual who has come for this loan, then in the lender's core banking systems also, they flag it off as an individual or a retail loan, and accordingly they report it to the bureau as a retail loan. If it is an entity to whom they have given, be it a sole proprietorship firm for that matter, but if that is the case, then they report it to the commercial bureau. So even in this case of seller financing, depending upon in whose name the loan is getting booked, accordingly the reporting will happen either on the consumer or the commercial.
Understood. Got it. Sure. So for all the attendees, please, this is the bit.ly link for the Google form where you can submit the questions. We'll get back to them, all of them, via email and so on, or cover them in the subsequent sessions that we'll be doing as well. So the next session that we are doing next week on Friday, March the 19th, will be on the legal frameworks and the design in context of OCEN. It's going to be a great session. We're really looking forward to it, and we'll share more details about registering for that one through social media and through the email channels. And we look forward to having you all for participating in that one as well. That aside, the APIs for OCEN have been published for quite some time, and now there's an active ecosystem of tech service providers who are helping lenders as well as LSPs come on to OCEN by integrating these APIs if they choose to partner up with these tech vendors. There are tech service providers who have published their sandboxes, which are available on credol.org. So you can sign up for the sandboxes and start tinkering around with the APIs over there, and start looking at utilizing them for embedding credit as a service in your applications of different types. Some of the other content that we always recommend to go through, which will set a lot of background and context about OCEN and cash flow lending at large, is the UK SINA RBI MSME committee report that came out in June 2019. That's available publicly to go through. Specifically, the chapters 7 and 8 touch upon cash flow based lending, the LSP model, and so on. And I see there are a few queries that were coming around account aggregators as well. So the read on data empowerment and protection architecture will give a good backdrop in terms of what's happening with account aggregator, what the framework looks like. And that will be a timely read, especially in context of the personal data protection bill that's going to come out soon as well. With that, I would like to thank you all, and Nipun, Manisha, and Shaunak for taking out time for presenting this new credit inquiry approach. And thank you all to the panelists.
Thank you, Ankit.
Thank you, Ankit, and thank you for all the participants.
Just wanted to mention last thing that next session is going to be very interesting, more from LSPs, lenders, borrowers, the whole new legal framework and how does the whole legal framework works out, considering multiple parties who are going to be the sourcing provider of data and the usage of data, and I think it's going to be an interesting session.
Yeah, we are looking forward to that one. And thank you all for attending today. Thank you, Nipun. And thank you all for attending today, and look forward to seeing you next week.